Glenn Quagmire is an awful person. Let's just say that now, up front. He's a shameless womanizer who objectifies literally all the time.
Hey, Meg, 18 yet?
No.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
Well, I'm glad, Brian.
All right.
Voila, one of the few examples you're gonna see in this video. But between all of those one-night stands he's having, Quagmire has actually managed to tie himself down on occasion.
Well, then you've never seen me at my best before. All thanks to Carrie.
Oh, not at the dinner table.
So today, I've gathered each and every Glenn Quagmire relationship I could find, and as insane as it sounds, Quagmire's relationships get even crazier than his normal hookups. Want proof? We'll look no further than Quagmire's Quagmire, where Quagmire finds a new girlfriend in Sonia.
Ow! 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 You're hurting me, and I really need to clean out my trunk.
Giggity.
That's my word. That's my word.
Oh yeah, Girlfriend of the Year award incoming. The episode kicks off with the boys heading to the Apple store where Glenn picks up his very first MacBook. He gets home and starts toying with the new technology, but to put it lightly, he's not so great with computers.
Okay, wait, there's an agreement that just popped up. Just hit accept. Well, that seems a little foolhardy, doesn't it, Peter?
Come on, Glenn, nobody's got the time to read those 40-page agreements. What's the worst that could happen if you just click?
No, Peter, the whole thing's fried. I can't even. Ah! What the hell?
Hey, you clicked accept.
I stand corrected. With his computer still acting up, Glenn heads back to the Apple store for tech support, and as soon as the lady at the front counter cracks open his laptop, the exact type of site you'd expect Quagmire to be on opens up at full volume. Thankfully, the tech girl knows the issue down to a T.
Your browser history shows that you've been going to kinkylatinas.net.
Oh.
Personally, I'd recommend college Latinas.
Wow, so you're into that kind of stuff, too?
Uh-huh.
Sounds like she's got a lot of experience in the field. Quagmire's into the girl, though, takes her out on a date where they start to really hit it off, pervy topics and all. Glenn wakes up the next morning and realizes he got lucky with her the night before. Though, oddly, he doesn't remember what all went down. Sonia tells him that even though Glenn seemed like a sure thing, she really wanted to make sure, and...
You roofied me?
Are you mad?
I'm in love.
Glenn, you're telling me that the way for you to fall in love with a woman is if she drugs you? Obviously, this girl's messed up, but if that's how Glenn's love logic works, then apparently these two frickwads are made for each other, no? With someone as depraved as him as a partner, Quagmire's sex shenanigans skyrocket, from doing it in front of his old senile principal on a basketball court to covering each other in paint and recreating the Chinese alphabet. Seems Quagmire's got no limits when it comes to coitus, until Sonia says this.
I want you to have sex with your father. Yep, and I'm gonna watch.
Hi, Glenn.
I would have been out of this relationship way before that point, but I'll emphasize it here. If I were Glenn, I'd run for my life. Sonia says that their relationship should be about pushing each other's boundaries, and so...
Did you enjoy your stay at the Marriott?
No, I did not.
Oh, that's not pushing boundaries. That's crimes against humanity. With that lovely moment in his repertoire, Glenn heads to the bar, and the boys are worried about him.
No, wait, give me those. Oh my God!
Quagmire, what the hell happened?
Call me a kink shamer, but this is messed up. To make matters worse, Sonia followed Glenn to the bar and ramps up the kinkiness to dangerous degrees as soon as he steps out.
I mean, I understand that no doesn't mean no, but...
This is one of your fantasies, right?
Sonia publicly humiliates Glenn by beating him bloody before stuffing him in a trunk and driving off. She even out-giggitied him, which is, I mean, well played, honestly. Eventually, Peter, Joe, and Ida gets concerned after they hadn't heard from Glenn in quite the while and heads off to find him, eventually leading them to Sonia's shed. Hey, a house wouldn't be complete without one.
Quagmire, are you in there?
Oh, he's eating. We'll come back when you're done eating.
Peter's a good friend, but his deductive reasoning, well, I'm glad Quagmire had Joe here. Let's just say that. The gang breaks into the storage unit, but before they can make the save, Sonia shows up and flips Joe's gun on everyone.
What the hell?
How'd you know the gun would jam?
The gun was never loaded. Sort of had a mental breakdown in April. No more bullets for this guy.
Joe's got that Mission Impossible type plan. That was epic. Glenn's released from his crazy girlfriend's chamber, and to celebrate, the boys head to the clam to celebrate everything being back to normal.
And it's good to put all those troubles behind us.
My dad told me he's pregnant.
Oh, I refuse to question that, let alone think about it any further at all. The one thing I do always question is how things would have been if Quagmire ended up with Lois. Okay, I don't always question that. That's just fracking weird. I just needed a good segue. And we get our answer in the episode, Meet the Quagmires.
I love all your jokes. That's why I married you.
It's shallow, it's despicable, but hey, at least they seem happy. It all starts at the Drunken Clim, where Quagmire's talking about the wonders of his unmarried life.
Women have a fourth hole. I mean, it's only visible if you're looking from exactly the right angle, like the entrance to Hogwarts.
Glenn's convos are always so riveting, no? The talk's got Peter wishing for a bit more excitement in his life as he realizes he spent all of his wild teenage years with Lois instead of going crazy like all the other kids that age. So he asks Death, who just happens to be at the bar, of course, don't question it, to send him back in time to when he was 18 for just one night. Death agrees, and Peter's back in the 80s, where everyone sees him as how he looked back then. Peter had a date with Lois the day he was sent back, but decides a change of plans are in order that'll help him embrace his wild side.
Lois, we got the rest of our lives, but tonight I got plans with Cleveland.
Golly dober! You know, Peter, there are generally ways to let your future wife down, okay? That's just... Later that night, Peter heads to the clan with young Cleveland and ends up making out with Molly Ringwald, but before he can get any further, Death wraps things up and sends Pete back to present day, where Molly Ringwald is his wife. Naturally, he takes the news well. He's got the voice of an angel. Brian notices things are out of whack in a bunch of different ways, with the most noticeable change being that Lois is coming out of Quagmire's house.
Come here, baby. Let's head upstairs and play hide-and-go anal.
In case that subtle nod didn't tip you off, it turns out Quagmire and Lois are married now. Brian and Peter deduce that their one night in the 80s drastically changed the future, and only have their suspicions confirmed when they head over to Quagmire's family for dinner.
Oh!
Those chins haunt my nightmares to this day, by the way. Peter tries to talk to Lois about how they were meant to be, but she says that Peter's preference to party left the door wide open for Glenn to sweep her off her feet at the country club dance. And it really does seem like she's taking a liking to Quagmire's lifestyle.
Let's go upstairs and do it.
Okay!
That's slapping Peter in the face on a whole new, much more disgusting level. How does Lois put up with him and his constant sex jokes? Peter and Brian realize they've got to get Death to send them back to the 80s and set things right. And thankfully, he does just that. With Death helping, Peter's got the perfect pathway to please Lois and set the future straight, as long as he doesn't botch it up.
You are a delight. I look forward to watching it with you, sweetheart.
That's a pretty big screw-up, if I dare say so. Though, thankfully, Death sets him back up for another try, and it looks like all is well. Or at least it does, until Cleveland tells him all about his plans for a night on the town. What'll it be? A lifetime of happiness with Lois, or a single night of partying with Cleveland? Do I even have to finish that sentence? We're talking about Peter Griffin here. Of course he's going to be irresponsible. At least Glenn appreciates Lois, kind of. In fact, he appreciates her so much that she invited him to the country club dance, exactly where she said that she fell in love with him in the other timeline. And Death is just absolutely done reversing things now, so Peter's got to figure out how to fix things for good. Later at the dance, Quagmire's making moves with Lois, so Peter and Brian sneak in to try to win one more chance with her. He tries talking things through, but she still refuses, and it looks like time is running out. With all other options exhausted, Peter decides that there's only one option left to fix things.
Hey, Quagmire!
Huh?
Sorry, Lois, but I have to do this.
Because violence is always the answer. Believe it or not, though, Peter manages to win Lois's heart with that punch, and the two decide to spend their lives together. Poor Glenn, though. He really did seem happy with his life with Lois. I mean, he had kids. Doesn't matter how terrifying they look, they're still his kids. So Quagmire's marital issues don't end there, as, yes, he was actually married once more in I Take the Quagmire. Though, as per any Quagmire relationship, to call it healthy is more than a stretch.
I love you, Glenn.
I love you too, insane woman.
What?
Oh, right.
He's got such a smooth way with words. The episode starts with Peter on Wheel of Fortune, where, get this, he wins. Never let someone tell you dimwits prevent success. As part of his earnings, he gets 1 free week of maid service, and believe me, he goes to town with requests for his new servant, Joan.
No one's cleaned my belly, but Lois is afraid to go near there, and my fingers are too thick.
That's a black hole of a belly right there. Joan, don't fall in! Wanting to make the most of his last night with the maid, Peter and the boys decide to load a watermelon with pudding and firecrackers to prank Meg, and it goes about as well as it could go, I guess. But when the maid comes in to clean up, Quagmire gets a bit out of character.
Hey there. It's nice to pleasure your acquaintance. Would you like to go out to dinner tomorrow night?
I'd love to.
God, he works fast.
I mean, when has Quagmire ever been reduced to stuttering like this while fully clothed? After some Disney fantasies that are as lovely as they are controversial, it's Glenn and Joan's 3-week anniversary, which means it's the perfect time to pop the question. The boys can't believe Glenn's now engaged, with Peter believing this is all a prank. But when the families of Spooner Street show up for Glenn's engagement party, they realize it's no joke.
Come on in, friends.
Not a leopard print carpet or pink thong in sight. Glenn's a changed man. Even his own bachelor party doesn't break Quagmire's domesticated chill.
All right, Quagmire, time for your lap dance.
No, guys, it's degrading to women.
Glenn Quagmire worrying about objectifying women? What world are we living in? The boys are super worried about him now and try to get through to his wild side, but with the wedding tomorrow, they've got to take drastic measures to do so.
I know you have a foot fetish, so I got you the Statue of Liberty's foot.
Joan's all the foot I need now.
I don't even want to know how much effort Peter went through to get that, but for Glenn to turn it down, Peter has every right to be upset. At the wedding, Peter decides to use one last tactic to break Glenn: Lois. If you couldn't tell from the last episode, he's obviously got at least a little bit of a thing for her. So Peter spills champagne all over Lois's chest, and to get her dry, well, I don't know about you guys, but I think towels are overrated.
Here, let me jiggle you dry.
I made a terrible mistake.
Yay, they did it. I don't think this is a good thing. Tears on a wedding day go both ways sometimes. Eventually, Glenn gently brings up the idea of divorce with Joan, with which Joan, being a reasonable lady, a calm and rational discussion follows suit.
What?
But.
Because if you ever left me, I'd have to cut myself. I'd cut you.
With the stakes raised, the boys decide that the only way to split Glenn and Joan up without anyone getting hurt is if Glenn, quote unquote, dies. They even capture footage of Glenn's last moments, first getting attacked by a ninja, then a robot, and finally...
Dun, 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 dun.
Well, I'm sold. Joan isn't, though. So the boys initiate Plan B. Heart attack. Glenn fakes all the symptoms to really sell the fatality, and I do mean all of them.
I said when people die, they void their bowels. Oh my God! What a jackass!
Oh, the things we do for love, and the things we do to get out of it. Glenn's funeral takes place the next day, and it's so convincing that even Death himself showed up. A close call with some cement forces Quagmire out of the act, but Death still gotta take someone with him.
So,
No, you can't take him.
Death was never specific about which Quagmire had to go. Although, to be fair to Joan, she literally sacrificed herself for Glenn. That's very sad. Glenn's gotta be feeling pretty rough right about now.
Can you leave that body here for another 5 minutes?
Right back to normal. I can't believe I expected anything less. Oh, I wouldn't say Joan was the worst of Quagmire's spouses over the years, because in The Giggity Wife, Glenn ended up with a real piece of work.
I would like to pawn all these clothes for crack money.
The episode starts with Peter, Joe, and Quagmire heading to Harvard to get some free grub thanks to a confiscated ID from Joe. After dinner, the boys head to a bar and get absolutely wasted, wrecking the town in all sorts of insane ways, including sailing down the streets in a massive ship. Physics don't apply when you're having fun, good to know. Though the fun comes to a screeching halt the next morning, and not because of a hangover.
Who the hell are you?
Who the hell do you think I am, sweetie?
Dark times have befallen this poor, poor man. With Shaunise as his new wife, Glenn immediately asks for a divorce, but she's happy to finally have a chance at living out her wedded dreams. Even after questioning the legitimacy of the marriage, Joe takes one look at the certificate and confirms it's real, meaning Glenn is stuck with this keeper till she agrees to split.
This is true love. Hey, what's our last name again?
The next day, Joe tells Glenn that Quahog's divorce lawyers heavily favor women, so even if Glenn did manage to split, he'd end up losing everything in the process. The only way around it is if she agrees to the divorce. Hear that, kids? Always get prenup. So Glenn decides to try and make the most of the situation and just adapt to being married. Firstly, by getting Shaunise a pelvic exam. Considering the fact that she's never had one, it'll be no easy task.
God, who are the pigs who just throw their empty beer cans down here?
The next step of Glenn's plan is to get her some better clothes, and so Shaunise heads out on a massive shopping spree before pawning off all her clothes for crack money. Glenn's got a real keeper there, guys. Next up, he's got to indoctrinate her into suburban life and bring her to dinner at the Griffin's place. Chris, being a bag full of hormones, capitalizes.
I have $3.74. Do something to me. I love you.
That night, Shaunise propositions Glenn, but he turns her down, which makes her ask if he's gay. Seeing a golden opportunity, Glenn asks if that'd be a problem for his wife, and she says yes. So Glenn just maximum overdrive.
I was gonna make you breakfast maybe once a week and
I would have loved that, Shaunise, if I just weren't so super duper double gay.
Seems pretty gay to Shaunise as she agrees to a no-fault divorce, meaning Glenn's off the hook. That is, until she walks in on Glenn watching straight porn. Couldn't have waited just a few minutes, you frick. The only way Glenn can prove to Shaunise that he's truly gay is if she watches him do it with another man, and thankfully Glenn's got an ace in the hole. Peter.
I have some demands.
Yeah, of course, of course.
There will be no kissing on the mouth.
Okay.
I changed my mind. There will be kissing on the mouth.
Part of Peter's demands here is that Glenn has to take him to a beautiful dinner, but the awkwardness of the scenario isn't lost despite the candles and roses. In fact, Glenn looks a little tense.
I'm tense because I have to bang you in 20 minutes.
Sure.
What the is going on with my life?
You brought this on yourself! Finally, the time has come to do the deed. Shaunise is ready to watch, and so the two begin.
Yeah, that was so hot.
Just like we always do.
Oh, real convincing there, guys. Thankfully, before things get messier, Shaunise realizes that even though Glenn isn't gay, if he's willing to do this much to get a divorce, their marriage wasn't meant to be.
I wanted to be somebody's wife, not somebody's burden. Good luck to you, sweetie.
Well, I'm glad she came to her senses. It only took a near-forced copulation to do so, but hey, she got there eventually. Thankfully, in the episode Take My Wife, Glenn's just back to dating, but that doesn't mean this girlfriend is any more of a suitable life partner. Not to say he's one, but I'm just...
Quagmire, what color are Kimmy's eyes?
Shaved. Sorry, what is it? What's the question?
I mean, come on. What husband ever knows what color his wife's eyes are? I mean, we're being real here. The episode starts with the wives of Spooner Street talking to the husbands about booking a trip to the Bahamas while prices are discounted. One issue, the deal is for couples only. Glenn's single for now. The couples meet up at the Griffin household ready to leave, but right before they do so, Glenn shows up with his new girlfriend, Kimmy.
I met her in a pop-up window on the internet.
Hi, Peter Griffin, all but separated.
Let's rush past the fact that Glenn's a computer virus dodger and point out that Peter just said that in front of his wife. After flying out, the gang finally makes it to their resort, and right off the bat, they're showing just how classy they all can be.
Something about black people wearing all white clothes. Very peaceful.
I can't tell if she meant that as a compliment, but it shouldn't have come out of her mouth, that's for certain. Later that night, the gang head to a beach barbecue, but Glenn didn't get the memo that he had to have a shirt to eat. Probably should have changed either way, though.
What the hell happened to you?
Oh, Kimmy and I fell asleep on the beach.
Yeah, I think you better change.
Okay, we'll be down in a minute.
Turns out that the whole trip is actually one giant couples therapy week that the girls trick their husbands into. But just because Quagmire and Kimmy are new to each other doesn't mean that they can't get in on the fun with the I feel statements.
My cervix hurts.
I feel pride.
However, the next day, the counselor says that while all the couples are incompatible with their current partners, they'd each work better with one another's partner. And just for a day, they're all required to switch around. And it goes pretty well. Everyone's getting along great with their new partners, but Peter gets along with Kimmy a little too well.
$1,000 for one whole handful of your butt. For 2 handfuls, I'll give you my car.
One cheek for $1,000 and 2 cheeks for an entire car. Someone hasn't read Art of the Deal. Lois angrily rounds up everyone to head home early, but right as she does so, the staff of the island revolts to take it back, leaving the families to run for their lives. Glenn and his new partner, Bonnie, make it to the forest and start thinking about escape plans.
I saw a small landing strip, giggity. Chance to get off giggity the island.
Did you really see that?
I don't know, baby. I'm crazy with the heat. Take your pants off.
That plan was dropped faster than a New Year's resolution. Eventually, the couples realize their new partners aren't everything they're cracked up to be before they're captured by the rebels. They're grouped up and picked off one by one, but hey, at least they have enough class to allow some final words.
Any last words?
Moist.
There's a lot of words that I'd expect to be Quagmire's last, but moist probably does make the most sense, doesn't it? Well, that and giggity. In their last moments, Peter and Lois apologize to one another for being bad partners and rekindle their love for each other, surprisingly. The gunmen cover their heads and take them outside, with the two saying, "I love you," one last time before...
You've successfully completed the program.
What?
Every bit of that was staged? Yeah, so turns out this was some extreme form of marriage counseling. Who would pay for that? So yeah, all the couples head home alive. Oh, and Quagmire and Kimmy break up off screen because it was kind of obvious that he was just using her for giggity time from the get-go. Speaking of obvious, can you guess what happens when Quagmire gets a hold of Tinder? Well, the dating game shows us all exactly what we'd expect. Yeah, his next relationship here is basically with his phone. Not hoping the men are gross accusations out here. After a bunch of medieval antics, don't ask, Quagmire sees Mort walking off with a beautiful lady, all thanks to Tinder, which he amazingly doesn't know about at this point.
What's Tinder?
It's an app for your phone.
What, like hookers?
Nope, just 2 horny people with phones.
Hey, is Joe wrong? The next day, the boys make Quagmire his Tinder account, and after learning the ropes of making a good bio and how to swipe, he gets his first match. Though to put it gently, Quagmire isn't as much of a Casanova online as he is in real life.
I hope this finds you well. Appreciated your last communication.
No, stop. Just send her an eggplant and the erupting volcano.
Still though, sounding like Shakespeare on Tinder probably isn't gonna win you any favors. Quagmire gets his first date and heads over, bouquet in hand, ready to run through all the motions before getting to the good stuff, though plans change pretty quickly.
A lovely bouquet.
Take off your pants and sit on the coffee table.
Okay.
That's gotta be some whiplash for Quagmire. It's like eating at a fancy restaurant all your life and then going through a drive-thru for the first time. Quagmire goes on a escapade with Tinder, swiping right on everyone, and before you know it, the boys wonder where he's been, head over to his place to check up on him. To absolutely no one's surprise, he's turned into a sex-obsessed golem, loincloth and all.
Let's get a little light in here, huh, buddy?
Ah! It burns my Tinder!
Boys have to take drastic measures though, so while he's distracted by another date, they grab his phone and throw it out. However, Quagmire can't break his swiping fever, and so the boys break into song to get the old Quagmire back.
There was a time when you'd be more selective and feeling erective.
Only a Family Guy song could get away with that. And American Dad. And BoJack Horseman. And Rick and Morty. And The Cleveland Show. And South Park. Oh, and... But despite the gang singing all about how Tinder makes you gross, Quagmire still won't give up his new favorite app and heads to a bar to drink his troubles away like a normal adult. While there, he meets a real girl who notices he's upset, giving Glenn the perfect chance to break his sad Tinder streak, and after some soul searching, he realizes he's got to get back to his pickup art roots. One short convo about a fake dead brother later, and...
My shouldn't be alone tonight. All right.
Okay, enough of the rapid-fire relationships there. Let's get back to long-term commitments in the episode Must Love Dogs.
My name's Carrie. It's really nice talking to you, Glenn.
Hey! Candy!
Hell hath no fury like an angry daughter dressed as Elsa. So Carrie and Glenn head out on a date at a coffee shop where Glenn quickly realizes that she's a dog person. Let it be known, he is not.
I don't think I could be with someone who doesn't love dogs as much as I do.
We like the same things as soon as you say what you like.
It's crazy, you can hear both his sorrow and manipulative nature in his voice there. It's pretty good act. The two set up their next date at a dog park, meaning Quagmire's got to get a puppy to seal the deal. He heads to the pet store, but is blown away by the high prices there and leaves empty-handed. He heads to Peter's for some beers afterwards, and once he gets a glimpse of Brian, he hatches a plan.
There he is, Brian the dog.
Why are you using my full name?
All right, let's cut to the chase.
Glenn explains he really likes this girl, even beyond the sex, and will do anything to get Brian's help. But you know Brian, he's way too far up on his high horse, and there's no way he'd help his sworn enemy out just like that.
There are not enough tennis balls in the world for me to...
I have 6.
I'll do it.
Okay, maybe I should have seen that one coming. Quagmire heads to the dog park the next day with Brian on his leash, though he's still trying to get used to the whole owning a dog act that he has to put on.
And who's this little guy?
This is Harvey, named after Weinstein.
I couldn't hear you because my dog was licking my ear.
Oh, thank God.
There's fumbling the bag, and then there's causing someone to run away screaming because you named your dog after a notorious criminal. Quagmire and Carrie get a bit more acquainted to the point where Glenn even admits to Brian he loves her, but he's not convinced. Soon after, Glenn takes Carrie to meet the Griffins over dinner, though Brian's decided to take Glenn's relationship up a notch to really test Glenn's commitment.
Will you marry me?
What's this now?
Yes, of course I'll marry you.
Now that's low. He had puppy dog eyes and everything. How could she resist? The two move in together, and Glenn quickly sees that his house is going to be turned into a kennel as Carrie's got a shelter's worth of rescue dogs she's bringing into the family. And I like dogs and all, but even I'd be against that. Imagine the vet bills. Soon after, Quagmire's house becomes absolutely cluttered with dog food, which does anything but help his iffy stance towards his new pet.
Doggy gate open. No, stop it! Malcolm, stop humping your brother. Backseat, outside.
How does Baxi even eat? Also, yeah, this new lifestyle seems like hell. You can't even say walk without being bombarded with barks. Poor Quagmire. At his engagement party, Glenn starts giving a speech to commemorate the moment, but makes a fatal mistake.
I would walk 500 miles.
Never, ever say the W word near a giant horde of dogs. Also, I don't want to know what those pups are even doing to Glenn in that huddle, by the way. So after the stampede, Glenn finally comes clean.
There's something you need to know. I hate dogs.
Now, after seeing what just happened to him, why would the crowd gasp at the thought of him hating dogs? They just trashed his entire engagement party, humped his face to boot. But with that secret out, Carrie finally decides to take her dogs and leave, meaning yet again, Quagmire's back to bachelorhood, and probably will now forever be a cat person. Though as close as Quagmire came to love there, he came even closer to it in Candy Quahog Marshmallow.
I don't have anyone waiting for me in Quahog. Here, I've got Sujin and our grandcats. I've got a family.
Because why just settle for settling down when you can settle in another country? The episode starts with the guys cleaning out Quagmire's house, and after a bit, Peter finds some old VHS tapes of a Korean show featuring what looks to be Quagmire, and sure enough, Glenn confirms it's him. Who'd have thought Quagmire would have been in a Korean soap opera?
That girl's hot.
That's a guy.
That other guy.
That's a girl.
That cattish.
That's a dog.
What is everything?
One thing to know about Korean soap operas, soap operas in general, they can be pretty weird sometimes. So weird, in fact, that by the time the gang reached the end of their binge session, Quagmire's love interest in the show is hit by a bus at their wedding. Happens to the best of us, really. The guys are desperate to know what happens next, but with no other tapes and no info online, they're left with one option: give up. Just kidding, they fly out to Korea. And as soon as they touch down, Quagmire's recognized a lot.
I take a picture with the giant Samsung phone. It's also tiny Kia car.
With how big that phone is, it's hard to say it's convenient, even if it can turn into a car. With all the attention Quagmire and his friends are soaking in on the luxuries Korea has to offer, with even Peter getting in on some plastic surgery.
Peter, are you all right?
You know what? I feel good.
Golly Cooper, that's horrifying. Human Barbie, you've met your match. Later on in their trip, Glenn runs into his old co-star who played his love interest, Sujin. He even confirms the gang's suspicions that the two were indeed an article even outside of the show. It's inevitable, just look at Tom Holland and Zendaya. And what's more, Sujin's even got the last episode of the soap opera that the boys are looking for. Sounds like a fun night planned.
Can we see it?
Why, yes! You and your friends must come to my home for gross Korean dinner.
Well, I mean, besides the dinner, everything else should be fun, right? After the boys finally see their inevitable dosage of K-pop, Glenn's got a surprise. His and Sujin's cat is still alive, and they had kittens.
What?
That's right. You're a grandfather.
This is more pussy than even I can handle.
I don't think his brain could fathom another way to phrase that. It was too perfect. Anywho, everyone catches the soap opera finale, and it turns out Quagmire's character is forced to leave his love behind and fly home to America, and the boys are heartbroken.
Why would he go back to his sad, pathetic bachelor life in America? Why would he ever want to go home? Okay, Quagmire, let's go home.
Wow, does he not realize what he just did there? Naturally, Quagmire realizes he'd be much happier if he stayed in Korea. Everyone else has a family, but Glenn's got nothing, and even his roles as a friend can be filled by someone else.
Who am I going to get all my wiener jokes from?
Yo, I got him from a book.
Oh, I wish I didn't know that.
You hate to hear it. Glenn's ripping off a bunch of other dudes' wiener bits. What? With it seeming like Glenn is stuck in his ways, the boys try to convince him to come home the Korean way, through K-pop. Duh.
Go hug your home, boy.
They certainly nailed the hyper-colorful outfits and backgrounds. I'd have bought it. Unfortunately, Quagmire is not budging until he realizes Sujin's family's sleeping traditions. Everyone lives together, everyone sleeps together. Lovely.
What's the matter, Glenn? You don't seem completely emotionless.
I am. I'm emotionless.
Honestly, the mental blow of realizing that this is your life now kind of would suck the emotions out of you. Thankfully, Quagmire quickly realizes the error of his ways and heads home with the boys. After one more K-pop song, of course.
Candy Quahog Marshmallow!
The lyrics didn't need to make sense. You just kind of get the vibe, you know? One thing I definitely don't want to get the vibe of is Quagmire's relationship with Meg in the episode Meg in Quagmire. We all knew he'd go for her at one point, but did we ever think he'd go this far?
You okay?
Yeah, babe.
I gotta pee, but I don't want to move. I'm so comfortable right now.
We start the episode off and it's Meg's 18th birthday. After a day of fun, I think, at the Kids' Choice Awards, the Griffins returned home to what should have been a surprise party. Unfortunately, Peter ruined the surprise and there wasn't anyone there in the first place. Poor Meg. Thankfully, Quagmire shows up late to welcome her to adulthood, not liking where this is going.
Happy birthday. Hey, where's that pinky going, huh?
Correction, really not liking where this is going. And neither is Peter for some reason, who intercepts Glenn's flirting and sends him home. Unfortunately, the two exchange numbers and start texting later that night, and as soon as Meg agrees to hang out more with Glenn, his instincts start to get the better of him.
Ah, it's too much.
I love stars.
Again, she's been 18 for like 15 hours, and the dude's gung-ho. The next day, Glenn shows up at the door with flowers, ready to take Meg out on the date. Peter's pissed as all hell, but oddly, Lois rushes Meg out the door. Apparently, she thinks Meg is just doing this to get a rise out of them, and so she insists that they just let this blow on over, because that's always healthy to do when your daughter's with a guy 3 times her age who talks like this.
Hey, you want to blow this joint?
Sure.
Oh, wow, really? All right, go for it. You mean leave? Yeah, sure. No, let's go.
After their date, Quagmire gives Meg a kiss goodnight and heads inside, only to find Peter. Hopefully he can give him a good scare and get Meg to safety.
Did you have with my daughter?
Peter, trust me, it's not happening. Yeah, she's really making me work for it. Maybe you could talk to her.
Asking a father to convince his daughter to sleep with someone? Are there no boundaries Quagmire won't cross for meaningless sex? Peter obviously refuses to help, but Quagmire refuses to let Meg go, as he puts it.
But it's like you're asking a fish not to swim. She's legal and I'm going in.
So the Quagmire Meg dating extravaganza continues, but every time they seem to be getting frisky, Peter butts in and saves the day. Eventually, it gets to the point where Peter has to say something to Meg, telling her about what happened to Joan Van Ark after Quagmire slept with her.
And 2 short months later, this is what happened to Joan Van Ark.
Oh my God!
That's what happens to you when you bump uglies to someone who's contracted every STD known to men. Even still, Meg still sticks to Quagmire. Said still twice because that's how still it gets. And Lois tells Peter to quit trying to change things. Oh, whatever you say, Fricker. Surprise, surprise. The very next day, Peter tells Lois the Quagmire took Meg to his sex cabin, and now she has a problem with things.
You admit you were stupid.
Yes.
You admit all women are stupid.
No.
All right, I'll take what I can get. Come on.
This is Glenn. I pricked a giraffe Quagmire. What did Lois think was gonna happen? The two get to Quagmire's place right as the couple leave for the cabin, but Quagmire and Meg manage to arrive much earlier than Lois and Peter, leading to this lovely moment.
And then I try to start the campfire?
That's insane. We taking our shirts off now? Okay, follow the leader.
Even this dude's shadow is a perv. That's how you know you should keep your daughters away from him. Peter and Lois finally make it right as Quagmire and Meg were about to,
Thanks for the ice cream, Glenn. Somehow it does taste better in my underpants.
Now get over here while the inside of your mouth is still freezing cold.
I've officially run out of ways to say this guy is creepy. You get it. He's a problem. In an instant, Peter's got Quagmire pinned to the wall and lets Meg know how he really feels about all this.
But you're still my daughter, and it's my job to protect you from errant wieners. You're gonna do what I say and get in a damn car!
Look, it's a bit harsh, but honestly, this is one of the few moments where Peter's actually a good father for Meg. He really is trying to make sure his friend doesn't creep on her. Friend in quotation marks at this point, by the way. This is one Quagmire relationship I'm glad ended as quickly as possible. We go from Quagmire being morally deplorable to Quagmire being less morally deplorable in Teagues for 2, where we learn he's actually got a tragic love story hidden beneath all that sleaze. I mean, hey, everyone's got their true love, I guess.
For me, that woman is Cheryl Teagues. Would never fall for these tricks. That's why I keep trying to figure out how to bring you back into my life so we can make it work.
Honestly, it's crazy to hear Quagmire say anything with that amount of genuine passion. Anywho, after Brian's rejected by a girl he likes, Peter recommends him to take Quagmire's class on picking up chicks, though, as we all know, the two hate each other, so there's no way this could go over well. Thankfully, Brian's already paid for the class, so he's in, but Glenn's got rules.
But you lick yourself once in this class and you're out.
Don't look. I spilled something.
Every time Mayor West is on screen, I ask, how did you ever get elected? Every time without fail, man. Glenn teaches his class to dress flashy and act like a jerk, but when Brian tries again with his crush and uses the Quagmire strategies, she bails immediately. Big shocker. When Brian complains, Quagmire explains these strategies aren't for finding love, but for getting laid. In fact, he says Brian will only find the woman of his dreams when he's ready, and even then, it might not always work out, as it did for himself and his true love, Cheryl Teagues. Apparently, the two met on a boardwalk when Glenn was doing unicycle work, and thankfully for him,
well, I think unicycles are sexy.
Nothing's more attractive than riding on a singular wheel. Nothing! The two hit it off great at first, but after a while, Glenn grew jealous of her having other guy friends and decided to split off from her. Tragic? I guess. Anywho, Glenn kicks Brian out of his class for back-talking, and so now he's out for revenge. The next day, Cheryl shows up at Glenn's door to drop by and say hi before she heads back to her new boyfriend. Can you guess who it is? I'm just gonna put it bluntly, editor, I'm sorry, you're gonna actually have to blur this one out. That might be the biggest move I've ever seen in my life in both senses of the word. So now, obviously, Quagmire's got to get some revenge of his own and decides to pay for Brian and Cheryl's date for the evening on the condition that himself and his new girlfriend can join them. Who is Quagmire's new partner, you may ask?
Here she is.
Jillian?
Hi, Brian. How are you?
Oh, Brian's ex and supposed love of his life. These two are cutthroat, aren't they?
Yeah, get in here.
Hey, oh. Let's have dinner, huh?
Yeah, I mean, we all knew this was coming. The girls realized they were just being used by the boys to get at one another and decide to ditch them, leaving them to their own stupid, petty squabbles. Brian and Quagmire meet outside after all is said and done, and it's almost looking like Quagmire's heartbreak is starting to make him a better, more genuine and forgiving person.
Cheryl's great, and I hope someday you get the chance to be with her.
I'm never gonna get that chance again. And you know what? I deserve to be lonely.
It really seems like the guy's opening up. Maybe the shared sadness is all the two needed to become friends finally. Yeah, you notice the lack of emotion in my voice the past two sentences. Like, we all saw this one coming. So, yeah, Quagmire's a pretty sleazy guy, but really, that's nothing new for shows like Family Guy. Click on this video here to see just how raunchy cartoons can get.